Hey everybody, it's John DePietro. I am at the Hanover Center for the Performing Arts, and I'm with my good friend. Tell me your name because I don't want to do it incorrectly.
Kavin Panmeechao.
Okay, and Kavin is from The King and I.
Yes.
And he's actually from Thailand.
Yes, well, I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but yes, I'm
Claremont.
Thai. Claremont, yes, Claremont, California.
Which is what? Around the 134? Is it that?
No, it's about 25 miles east of LA proper. It's where the Claremont colleges are.
Okay.
Pomona, Pitzer. Yeah.
Okay. All I know is LA is just one giant city that no matter where you go, you're always in the city.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
But you're here for Worcester. You're here for The King and I in Worcester. Last night was opening night, and it was a great audience. They had a great reaction to the show.
Yeah.
Tell us what your role is in the show.
I play LUN THA, who is the Burmese emissary, who is here to escort the Princess Thapin as a gift from the King of Burma to the King of Siam. Yeah.
So you have two musical numbers in it.
Yes.
We Kiss in the Shadows, and I Have Heard, and then you get killed.
Yep, pretty much.
So you know what? For a top tier role, you don't have a lot of stage time.
No, I think I clocked it once at like about 20 minutes.
20 minutes out of a 2.5 hour show.
About 2.5, a little over 2.5 hour show.
So that's a lot of hanging around in the back.
Yeah, it's you know, actually it can be a little difficult because you're trying to, like, I have an hour between songs. So I'm trying to keep warm and like keep myself going. Like, where am I in the show? Where am I in the trajectory of the show? How much time has passed between my last scene and the next scene? That's always kind of like the mental games that I play.
Right, so you pretty much know where the show is based upon, a lot of times performers use a stopwatch.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, we do have running clocks backstage that kind of time the show and stuff. So I just look at the clocks like, oh yeah.
Okay,
like,
I should be up there now. Give us a little bit of the storyline of the show because it's been around for what, at least
about
70 years or so.
Yeah, about 70 years. So the show is about the King of Siam, King Mongkut of Siam, who has hired this English, specifically Welsh, governess to come and teach his children and his wives.
Say that again. Wives.
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 Yes.
Okay, and that's prominent. That's prominent to the storyline within the show, right?
It is, and if you were looking at the history, it's a very political system. It's hugely important because at the time, Siam was a conglomeration of tribes that the king, who would send their most high-ranking woman to the court of the King of Siam to marry him, and in that way, the king then offered protection and his resources to the tribe itself. So it was a way for him to unify the country, and that was how it was done. That was the political aspect behind polygamous marriage.
Mm-hmm. And socially today, that there were a lot of lines last night that people from the audience were oohing and eahing that from 7 years ago was no big deal, but today
it's very relevant. There's this one great line that the King of Siam says, like, one day I wish to build a fence around Siam.
Oh,
and you know what's so funny? Some people were
Mexico.
like, right? Yeah. Some people when we started, or people over the course of the tour have said, like, oh, they must have put that line in. I was like, no, that was written by Oscar Hammerstein 70 years ago.
Yep.
I thought that was just so prescient. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Being with your ethnic background, being from that same country, does it make it special for you? Is it something that you get more out of it than if it was, a European-based American that was doing it?
I think,
like me.
I think we all, our cast is predominantly Asian, so it's first of all, it's really wonderful for us to be able to tell this story about Asian people. For a person who's Thai like myself, I love the piece. I love what it has to say about the role of women in patriarchal societies. I love what it has to say about two cultures coming together, finding common ground, finding understanding between themselves.
The English and the Asian.
Yes,
yeah.
These, and as represented by Anna and the King, because they are two very different cultures. They are two very different people. And they find over the course of the show that they have much more in common than they do that is not in common. So I love that. I love what that has to say about the show, about the way that people can work together. You know, we live in a world right now that is quite divided.
Sure.
And I think that that's really an important lesson to take away from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, last night was opening night.
Yes.
Talk about the magic of opening night, which you must experience several times a year. Is there still magic in opening night?
There's
to begin
definitely
with?
magic in opening night. There's more nerves in opening night. I think every venue is different, and every theater has different energy, and every single time you perform in a new space, you're always kind of feeling out what that energy is, you know. And our audiences have been amazing. You know, and some audiences are quieter, some are more vocal, but they all are so receptive and so warm. So the magic I get is mostly from them.
From the audience.
From the audience.
From the
yeah.
audience. Talk about this theater.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We were saying it. We walked in. We're like, oh my God, it's so stately. It's just this beautiful, very stately.
It's your first time coming in. You got your bags with you, and you're looking around.
And we're like looking around, and I have sound check.
Okay.
The first day
Yep.
of the show, and so that's always a chance for me to really appreciate the space, because while I'm performing, I can't really see it. It's all dark.
Right. It's all dark.
So it's my chance to actually get to sing into the space and actually take it in. So,
And if you ever saw it before they did it over and saw
I
how
heard
beat
about
up it
this.
was.
A big renovation. When was that?
It was 10 years ago. The
Okay.
theater's been open, but it was, like 13 years. I mean, that whole back wall was gone. It was nothing. And they
Wow.
had to raise the, whatever you call that area there to be able to drop the curtains and
That's
stuff like that.
fantastic. That's
I mean,
great.
you could sit in the theater and look out and see the street. You weren't even here yet then,
Wow.
but you could see the street next
Wow,
door.
that's so cool.
Last night when I looked at the audience, it was probably, would you say, 80% female. Now, I don't know whether it was, I'm trying to figure out, is there a storyline in it that would attract women, or was it just because it was ladies' night out, or just what?
I don't know. You know what's funny is that we were just in Detroit, and one day we had a performance where the Tigers were also playing,
Okay.
and they were playing right across the street.
Did you do Fox?
Yeah, we
Fox
were
Theater,
at
yeah.
Fox, and it was so funny because we knew that all the women in the audience that day were there, and their husbands were across the street at the game. That was great. No, I think the show has a really strong. Bartlett here, our amazing director, really wanted to highlight the plight of women in this kind of society.
Who went to college here, by the way. I don't know
Did
if
he really?
you're aware
I
of
didn't
that.
know
He went
that.
to Holy Cross.
Oh yes, I didn't know it was here.
Yep,
Okay,
right
good
up
to
the
know.
street.
Good to know.
Actually, same street, Southbridge Street.
So really,
It's right
that's
down the street.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So he really wanted to explore that aspect of the show, and so there's a quote I read somewhere that I think really encapsulates the show, and that is the show is about three women: one who fights the system, one who works within the system, and one who runs away from the system.
Okay.
And
And your opposite character was the runaway.
is the runaway.
Runaway, okay.
And so I think why the show speaks so much to women is that it shows this patriarchal society and shows ways that women have agency still within this society, how they find their own resolve to work through this kind of system. And I think that's incredibly empowering to see these powerful female characters on stage. So
Because really the lead is Anna, more so than the king.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what the great thing about those two is that I love how unconventional their relationship is. It's not a love story. It's more than a friendship. It's ephemeral. It's really hard to describe because there is a type of love. It's not romantic love, but it's a type of love that transcends their cultures and transcends their social norms. And I love that about the show. I love how powerful and how take charge Anna is. She has so much inner strength. She has incredible will, and she wants what she wants, and she's not afraid to ask.
Ask for it, right?
No, not
Exactly, exactly. The choreography,
Amazing.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have, the choreography is based on Jerome Robbins' original choreography, as reinterpreted and readapted by Chris Catelli and Greg Zane, and it's just a stunning piece.
Has it been contemporized?
There are sections, yes, that have been contemporized. And
is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is now.
I mean, Shakespeare invented tons of words, so here we get to invent our own. But the show was staged at Lincoln Center, and the stage there is a thrust.
Okay.
So it sticks out to the audience.
Yeah.
So when they rethought the ballet for our tour, they wanted to keep that sense of depth. They wanted to keep that sense of constant movement. As opposed to staging things very flat. So that was actually really cool to see them utilize the concepts that they had developed at Lincoln Center and
Taking it on the road.
them
Yep.
for a tour.
Like you said, every theater is different.
Absolutely.
Some are not as deep.
No.
Some are not as wide,
No.
and
Yeah.
you have to
So
improvise.
it's really, their work is incredible. And I feel so fortunate. I'm not dancing in the show, but I feel so fortunate to have been able to say that I saw how they worked.
Well, I said to my wife, I said, I don't remember the ballet part. And she said, well, didn't you see it? I said, well, when you're in the show, you're not in the audience, you're down below, waiting for it to get called saying, hey,
Absolutely,
be on your mark.
Yeah, and I think, when I did The King and I when I was very young at a community theater.
Were you a kid? Were you one of the kids?
Yeah,
one of the kids.
I was
Hey,
one of the kids.
right
Yeah,
on.
right.
Hey,
Yeah.
here we go.
And they cut the ballet completely. They just took the ballet out because I was a small community theater. They didn't have the dancers. They didn't have the resources to stage it, and it misses something without the ballet, definitely.
We should tell people that this show is on all week, because the name of the game for this interview is to put people in the seats.
Yes, absolutely.
But the show runs through Sunday. What, 2 shows on Saturday, 1 on Sunday?
2 on Sunday.
2 on Sunday as well.
Yeah,
Okay, so tickets are on sale at the box office. Also, you can go to the website, hanovertheatre.org, and get them that way there. So now we got our business taken care of. We can get back into the art.
Right, of course.
So let's get to you. When in your life did you decide to say, look, I want to be an actor I want to make a living doing this?
Oh man, I don't know if it was any one moment. It's kind of a process. I did community theater as a kid, like I said.
Were you forced into it? Or
No, I was very shy as
Okay.
a kid. Really, really shy. But I desperately wanted to do theater. I wanted to perform. So I had to overcome it for myself. So I did a lot of community theater as a kid, and I had an agent, and I was auditioning
as a teenager?
Kid, as a kid, actually.
So you had headshots when you were 10 years old and all that stuff?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, and I was auditioning and commercials and doing commercials and things like that. But I got to like my preteens, and I just kind of said, I'm done with performing for a while, and I quit. And my parents are both artists, visual artists. And so I actually, the first form of creative expression I ever really was attracted to was painting and drawing. Okay. So I just started doing that for a while. And then I got to high school again, and I went to a high school that had an amazing theater program. And I got involved in that again and fell in love with it again in a very different way than I had as a kid. And so I think my junior year, I decided that I was going to audition for theater schools and see if I could maybe develop my talent more.
Instead of quote unquote traditional liberal arts college.
Yeah, I mean it was a liberal arts education with a theater emphasis, and was fortunate enough to get into some really fantastic programs around the country, and then I decided, okay, I guess this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And, I went to school, and it was eye-opening. It was hard, kicked my butt like mad, but I'm so grateful for that training. I'm so grateful for that experience.
So when did your career at Houston come into play here?
Houston's? Oh, I love Houston's. That was actually the first job I got when I moved to New York City, when I was 24. I want to say, this is 2000. Yeah, I was 24, and I loved working there. I love their food. Man, I love their food.
That was in order to pay bills?
Oh yeah,
Yep,
absolutely,
pay bills, right?
Absolutely. And funny enough, I had worked there for about 3 months, and I booked my first tour, which was the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Ah, okay.
That was about 10 years ago.
Talk about life on the road, because like here, you're not doing one night stands here. You're here for a week. So, where were you last? Tell us about getting from there to here, and where you go next.
We were, like I said, we were in Detroit.
Detroit.
Give people an idea of what touring life is like. So we're usually in towns for a week at the minimum, longer than that in several places. And Monday day is travel day. So
your show's on Sunday, doubles on Sunday.
Yeah, our final show is on Sunday, and then Monday we all travel. So we all get on plane. Mostly we fly. Unless, for example, we went from Cincinnati to Columbus, which is literally like an hour and a half away.
Right. Straight up, 71.
Yeah. So that instance, we took a really nice bus.
See, it's kind of like Ringling Brothers. They break down on Sunday afternoon, throw everybody on the train, and
so our crew does load out Sunday night. They take about 4 to 5 hours to load out the whole show onto 18-wheeler trucks.
How many trucks?
Our show has 7, and then they transport that. They start as soon as they're done loading out. Those trucks leave. The crew usually will go back to the hotel to sleep a little bit, and then they'll take an earlier flight. And they'll be in the new city by at least mid-afternoon, because they have to start load in for the new venue. And we usually get in a little bit later. And Monday night usually is spent, either grocery shopping. We usually have fridges and microwaves in our hotel rooms. So grocery shopping, kind of getting a lay of the land. Some people go to dinner.
Hoping you're not in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, hopefully we're not in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, we're usually very close to the theater, or within like a few miles. So we just kind of walk around. Detroit was a lot of fun. We walked around all over Detroit, and
you can't walk around many areas of Detroit, so you picked a good area.
Well, what's great is that Detroit is really in the midst of a revitalization, and actually that was something that we all commented on. We were like, especially people who toured through Detroit before, a lot of people said this is a very different Detroit than what they had remembered from their previous tours.
Because if the Fox is right across from Comerica, and then you got Ford Field right there, then you got Greektown just a couple stops away.
Yeah. And then you could go straight up Woodward, you hit like Midtown and the Museum District. And it was, what was amazing was that how walkable it ended up being. And that was... I was so happy to see Detroit in the midst of this
coming back, the Renaissance.
Yeah, they're coming back. Yeah,
actually, the Renaissance Center. I think that's the big hotel where the GM, the Marriott and the GM headquarters.
Yeah, I think so.
So you get to town. You get yourself situated on Monday. Is you usually opening on a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
Yeah, we usually open on Tuesdays. Yeah, that's our normal. We have opened on Wednesday a couple times when the venue is very, very far from the previous city. So
up for travel.
So yeah, that's actually more so for the crew and to give them a chance to really load in. And in that case, then we have a golden day, which is really awesome. Tuesday off, and we just kind of go frolic.
This is a big crew. I mean, I counted about 30 people on stage last night. That's a lot of people.
Our show, I believe, employs 34.
Okay.
Cast members, and that's and another 20
on the crew,
some odd crew. Yeah, it's a big show. Really big.
Talk about the crew for a second, because the crew is probably the most under talked about aspect of touring.
Yeah,
without them, you guys are dead.
We're dead. I mean, our crew is phenomenal. We are so. I can't talk about crews enough. I'm so enamored of their work. Every show that I've ever done, I'm fascinated by the work that the crew does. It's hard work. It's
Dirty work.
It's dirty work.
Dangerous.
It can be dangerous, yeah. And especially when you're doing load in and load out. You're
Regardless of the weather.
You're up for like 20 hours, you know. It's exhausting. So I give them mad props. They're some of the most hardworking, self-effacing. They're just and incredibly positive people.
Always dressed in black.
Always dressed in black. Always dressed in black. It's real easy in terms of a wardrobe that you get to take around.
Yep.
Our crew is fantastic. They are phenomenal.
Okay, just a couple more things because I know you got to do a million things today. An hour before showtime. Hour and a half before showtime. What's going through your head?
Coffee. That's what's going through my head. No, for me,
Everybody kind of has their own routine.
yeah, everyone
right?
has a routine. I tend to like to relax. Some people like to warm up. I warm up vocally, usually around about an hour before the show, is I'll start to warm up vocally, and it'll be very, very gentle warm up. Some people like to do like a really big, condensed warm up. I like to kind of warm up slowly, get my body going. If I can, and I've been very fortunate in some cities to be very close to a gym, which is close to the theater.
Yeah.
I'll usually go for a swim about an hour and a half before the show, and then I'll probably have like a very light meal, not very heavy at all, and then I'll start getting ready for the show.
Do you? When do you transition from you to whoever you are that particular day?
For me, the transition always happens when I put my costume and my wig on. I don't quite feel like the character until those elements are in place. Judi Dench talks about that a lot, actually. She went to school, a lot of people don't know this, she went to school originally for costume design. So for her, and also for myself, I find she doesn't feel like she's in character, and I certainly don't feel like I'm in character until I actually put my costume on. And then I put my wig on, and that's really where I feel like I kind of disappear.
Yeah. And be that other person. Words of advice to aspiring showbiz folk. Don't.
Well, actually, you know, there's a saying that if you can do anything else, do that. And there's some truth to that because it's a very hard line of work. You can face a lot of rejection, and you have to separate your sense of self-worth from who you are as an actor, you know, what you do. And that can be very difficult. So I always tell kids I teach and people I talk to that if you're going to do this, you have to, first of all, really love doing this. This is a line of work that requires passion. You can't just do it because you...
How important is passion?
In this line of work, incredibly important. It's part of the work. Acting is a passionate endeavor because you are playing with your emotions. And so it's incredibly important to do this with passion. So I always tell people who are looking to go into this that is first and foremost what you need. The second thing that I advocate for is never stop learning, always train. And I say that because we all have talents and gifts, but training gives us a structure by which to display those talents and those gifts. It gives us a construct. It gives us, and it also allows our talent to develop. You know, the development doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Being someone else is hard work.
Yes, it is.
Coming out of yourself and being that other person.
And and some people are very fortunate to just be naturally gifted in that ability, but training is craft, and making good theater is craft. It's craft work. So you need skills to do that work. So I always tell people, train, don't ever stop learning. Once you leave school, keep the mindset that you will always continue to learn. Because you can learn, you don't have to go to school to learn. You can be in a rehearsal process and learn. You know, I learned so much while we were in rehearsal, watching Bart and Chris and Ted Sperling, our musical director, all collaborating and working together to build this piece. I learned so much about theater making.
And you had to check your ego.
Absolutely. That's actually my number one motto in life. Check your ego. Your ego will do a number of things. The first thing it will do is that it will stop you from growing. Ego is actually just there to protect you from making an ass out of yourself. And I often go into a process saying, Kavin, it's okay if you don't know. It's okay if you don't know.
You can learn.
Yeah, and what happens for me is that I just then make choices, and I feel free to make choices in the rehearsal process, because I'm not trying to protect myself and trying not to embarrass myself, you know. I'm just like, if I embarrass myself, myself, and then you just, oh, that didn't work, move on. So I always tell people, like, check your ego. Your ego is trying to protect you, and that's not a bad thing, but for this type of work, it won't help you.
At all.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, we want to thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've just joined us, well, you're too late because we're ending, but you can watch this on replay. But we're with Kavin. Say your last name.
Panmeechao.
Panmeechao, and he is in The King and I, Hanover Theatre for the Performing Arts, downtown Worcester, through Sunday the 22nd. 20th. Okay, there we go. Have a great day, everybody.